The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Youre. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships. Or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Youre. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
All right. What's up, guys? Welcome to Wednesday. It is our weekly Habit-Based Lifestyle and Business show. This week is going to be all about business, and I have a special guest on here, Mr. Joey Kramer, one of our clients who's absolutely crushed it in his business since he came into the program. Not only that, but just a great all-around guy and a stud chiropractor. So Joey, welcome to the show, man.
Hi, I'm excited to be here, Jesse. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Super excited. And also wanted to give people a little background on you. What type of chiropractic work do you do? And, kind of like, what do you specialize in, man?
So I'm an upper cervical doctor. So I deal with the very top bone of your neck, sits somewhere right about here. And that's all we see in the practice. That's what we take care of. That's the only thing we adjust. That's really what I do. So,
okay, cool.
People often ask me, they're like, hey, is this a new technique? And I'm like, no, it's been around since 1934. And they're like, what the hell? And I'm like, yeah, the guy who invented this thing, he died with like 40 million in his bank account in 1960.
Wow.
And doing this work. And the people are like, huh? And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty crazy, huh?
So, you got into chiropractic, obviously. Like, what made you decide to do this specific type of work?
Background athletics. I had 4 major concussions in high school sports, 2 in football, 2 in wrestling. And then I've had 3 car wrecks that have totaled cars. And so that's a total of 8 whiplash traumas I've had in my life. Mid-20s, I started getting insomnia and numbness in both my hands. And I would go to the chiropractor. The guy I typically went to for like my low back, because I was a competitive disc and hammer thrower. So I was always going and seeing these guys, and they never really fixed the numbness and the insomnia. And one of the doctors recognized that it was outside his scope and said, hey man, you need to see an upper cervical doctor. I said, all right. So I went and found one. And he got rid of the numbness and he got rid of the insomnia.
Okay. So you go to this guy, you basically, you get treated and you realize, hey, this changed my life. And then you want to actually do that and help other people in the same way. So when you go to chiropractic school, regular school, do they teach you this, or do you have to go to kind of a specialized program?
I think it depends on where you go to school, right? So in the United States, we have 16 schools. The school I attended is in Dallas, and they do not teach this.
Okay.
Mainly West Coast schools, East Coast schools have it. So there's a school in San Francisco called Palmer West, and there's another school over in Florida called Palmer East. And those are the 2 schools that teach this technique.
Okay.
I learned from a guy who invented the technique. So I had to go pay bukus of dollars outside of, alongside being a student to learn how to do the work.
Okay, cool. So it's more specialized care.
More specialized
care. You pay for a guy to teach you, and then, which is really cool because you see guys, it's like you're learning from kind of like Mr. Miyagi.
That's exactly.
You're learning from like one of his students. And, what I kind of found is even as a trainer for 22 years, like many of the certifications I got is like, dude, none of them actually applied to the work I was doing. And I would go out and kind of find like, hey, who's the number one, trainer, strength coach, fat loss expert? And I would go pay them personally to go learn exactly like what they're doing, their system, their philosophy. And, that was what really made me different and unique. And that's kind of what I hear you're doing. You did the same thing.
I definitely did it. And, even now I still have, so my mentor died in 2014 of a massive heart attack, 2016, right around there. His partner is still in practice, and I still reach out to him on the daily. And I'll just call him up and I'll be like, hey, doc, I got this complex case, comes in, this is how I'm adjusting. And he's like, hey, I can see why you would do that. And he goes, 25 years of experience, though, I would do this. And I'm like, now I see that. And so it's been helping us get better results with the patients. So it's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So you came into, habit-based lifestyle. Like what was going on kind of in your practice at that time?
I like to say I was a Swiss Army knife, right? I had an idea of what I wanted to do. I was afraid to step into that field though, with the practice. I was in scarcity mindset. So anybody that came into the practice, I took them on. I was like, oh my God, you're going to be a client. This is going to be great. And pretty soon our practice was this mix of like C and D level clients that sucked the life out of me. And, you've talked to a bunch of chiropractors. Everybody with a spine is the perfect patient. Kids, pregnant women, old people, we got you all, right? We take care of them. And I hated every single one of those classes. I was like, I don't like seeing kids. I don't like seeing pregnant women. And I definitely don't like taking care of old people because they never leave your office. And so I was really lost in where I wanted to go with direction and really how to go that route.
Okay. And, just from kind of a lifestyle standpoint, at that point, like what was going on kind of in your life at the time you came in?
Meaning personal or meaning more along the lines of business?
Yeah, like personal and then even business, same thing.
I would say, personally, we had just moved into a house, COVID hit. We're super stressed, right? I mean, the business is making, baseline money. We're covering our expenses, but we're, 2-3 months down the road from being bankrupt. I mean, if something fell apart in the practice, we would not make it, really is where we were. Okay. So yeah, that's what was going on with the family life. And it was almost as if we were sinking every single hour of every day into the practice, right? There was no organization. It was like, hey, I'm seeing patients for 3 hours. Then I got to go have a lunch with a guy to network. Then you got to go to chamber. Then you got to go to the ribbon cutting. And then you got to do all these things. And none of it turned business. Pretty soon you learn that it's the same damn 10 people at chamber lunch that are at the chamber ribbon cutting. And you just saw them 5 hours ago. Nothing's changed, right? They're not going to come into your practice. They don't know anybody different. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I remember having the conversation with you that, you were kind of like, hey man, I don't know if I really want to do this much longer, if this is the way it's going to be. And I think at the time you were doing like 15, 16K a month, kind of averaging that. But a lot of it, like, what we talked about is like, hey, I'm not getting the ideal client that I actually want to work with. I feel like I'm just settling for, whoever walks in the door. And so like, what did you notice right away when you came into the habit-based lifestyle accelerator?
I noticed that your clients were actually crushing it. So I've been a part of like 5 coaching organizations, and it was all smoke and mirrors. I mean, like you get into it and it's like, hey man, I can help you make 30 grand a month. And then the average person is making like 8. And you're like, what kind of bullshit is this, dude? You just sold me shit. That's all this was. And so I came in, and I remember, I think it was like my first week, Todd Wendell was posting like 70 or 40K months. And I was just like, what the hell? Like, here's a chiropractor crushing it, and he's actually crushing it. It's not fake, right? Yeah, it's not funny money either. Like, this is like, hey man, I just add, like every day it was like, hey, 3 new patients, 4 new patients, 3 new patients. I was like, damn it. So I saw that, and then that let me know that it is possible, right? Because he's been in there about 3 months ahead of me. And you're like, you told me originally, 3 months, that's what it's going to take. You get some quick wins in the beginning, but your real people will start coming in month 3, month 4, month 5, right? And so I was like, all right. So I got to work on really the trainings and really working through it and talking about who would be that A-level client, and then how do we find them? So
Yeah. And then I think your first month you hit, you doubled basically what you were doing on a regular basis.
we hit 30. I think we hit 30 the first month. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think you did it again, or maybe like 36 your second month. And then
55 our third.
Your third month, I think, was 55 or 56,000. So you really like, almost 4X'd, in your original revenue of what you were doing when you're coming in 3 months. But what really started to shift for you? Like, what was kind of the defining moment in that first 3 months for you?
I think it was you helping me understand who I am. Really, personal coaching. It was actually me asking questions that weren't trying to, one, push your identity onto me, because most coaches want to do that. They want to force you into their box. And your box allowed me to explore who I was, right? Versus, and also who I wanted to become. And in doing so, it allowed me to be more confident in telling people who I help and not be afraid to step into that space. Right. So now I was like, no, this is like, you're not a good fit for my practice. Like, you don't belong here. Right. And I stopped acting out of scarcity and I started working on with confidence and courage and stepping into that space. So.
Good, man. Yeah. So, one thing I noticed right away that, you kind of had a front when you first came in of like, kind of pretending to be a badass. But I also seen that you were like deep down. It was just like, it was like you had kind of the fake confidence coming in, and then that turned into real confidence, after, about 30 days. And then I seen you kind of say, okay, I want to be like this guy. And then all of a sudden, 2-3 months in, now you're like that guy, and you see yourself that it's like, oh shit, now I'm actually doing what I wished I was doing when I first came in. Then you're like, okay, well, what's next for me? And it's been cool to watch that transition, but what has really changed in your family life since you really came in, and just your business life? Cause I know it's drastically different. Yes, the money is obviously coming in and things like that, but what has really shifted? Because I get a lot of guys, they're like, oh dude, my family is locked down and I just need help on my business.
I think that's a front. I think that's total bullshit for most of those guys. I just went through this hiring process because my office manager just had a baby. So she's done working for us. I had to hire new people. And one of my questions asked to me was, why do you only work like 18 hours, maybe 15 hours a week? And I said it because I intentionally designed my life this way after being a part of your program. And they were like, well, why is that? I go, because I recognize that I have to be home because it's really important for me to be present for my wife and my kids. And that when I was running all these circles of, networking and being, busy, that I was sacrificing my marriage. And as a result, that transitioned into the practice, and the practice just sucked. And it was all mediocre crap. That's what I saw. Right. So on that end, on this back end of this is nuts. One of my wife and I's goal is that since opening our business, we've been perpetually in credit card debt. We've been in $35,000 in debt for the last 4 years. We have never gotten rid of it. January, I paid it off in one payment, paid the whole damn thing off. We're debt free. We have no credit cards. It's all gone. And it's because of what we were able to build from the guidance of the team, of the group, from that standpoint. And I don't know if you've maybe been in that position, you've been, from that perspective, but that puts stress on you. Like, I think most people don't know what that stress feels like. And that stresses the marriage, that stresses you as a parent, it stresses you as like a business owner, because you always show up and afraid. You show up like, oh my God, if I don't sign this client, I'm not going to pay bills. And this cascade of crap keeps coming down. Well, now that you're free from it, you open up space for creation. And now it becomes a conversation of, what can I do to not only expand, but to expand in the right way? Because now we have flexibility, we have assets to move around now.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I think anybody who's been a business owner, entrepreneur for over 10 years has been in that situation multiple times, and you're right. It's sometimes we overextend ourselves I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, even with myself early on as an entrepreneur, was I was more interested in buying more tools and tricks and things versus, doubling down on my marketing and doubling down on the things that actually would get me out of debt. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they're like, well, I need a new table, or I need a new piece of equipment versus, no, I need to double down on my marketing so that I can pay off this debt that's, following me around like a bat, that's basically putting all this weight and pressure on me every day. And instead they go to the tool because they think that's what's going to bring clients in versus no, it's understanding how to operate your business from a CEO level, not a, reactive level, which is how I see most people managing their business.
100%. I think that's what changed. That's the biggest shift, right? Because I think what, January 1, I was talking to you on a call and I was talking about adding in some stuff. And then you were like, you asked me this question and I had a blank sheet of paper for 6 weeks. Like it totally fucked my mind. Like I was just sitting there looking at it like, what? I don't even know how to answer this. And then we got on a call in February and you're like, dude, like get out of your head. And I was just like, And then I wrote down on the sheet what it was, and it didn't involve adding anything. It was just stepping into that space and then owning it.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is sometimes we can overthink, what we need to do or what we should do instead of like, listen, if I'm in my head, it's going to be really hard for me to move out of the place that I'm currently in, whether it's, hey, I need to figure out how to get more clients, things like that. But once we kind of drop in our bodies, then we can move into the direction we need to go. And I think that's, staring at a blank sheet of paper, even though you felt like nothing was happening, you were still kind of moving. You just didn't realize it. Let me ask you this, man. So you're working less, since September, you're getting paid more. We talked a little bit about you used to do coaching with other coaches, but what is a big difference you see in the coaching you get here versus the coaching, without having to say names, obviously, but the coaching you get here versus the coaching you got in other programs?
I would say a few things. Number one is intentionality with the coach. You have a very direct relationship with us. You know what's going on in our lives pretty much every day of the week. You know where we are. And if we try to ghost you, you don't let us hide, which is super important because most coaches would just be like, oh, that's all right, man. That's his fault. I'll just collect, the $500 a month he's paying me, or the, the $2,000 or the $5,000 or $10,000. It doesn't matter what you're paying them, but most of them will just disappear and they'll just let you disappear, fall to the wayside, and not pay attention to you with your needs, right? And obviously, when somebody starts disappearing is when you start actually reaching out more. You dive into them, right? You take care of them.
Right.
I also see that when somebody's not a good fit in the group and it like really dismembers the harmony of what's going on with the accelerator program, you kick them out. Because if they're not going to follow the recommendations, they're not going to follow the success strategy the way that it's designed, they're just going to be toxic and they're going to create confusion and chaos for everybody else in that group, especially if they're new, right?
Right.
And so what I also see is that you usually help us with looking at someone 3 months ahead of us where we are in the program. Most people, when they get added in and previous coaches, they just dump you in. They don't even give you any advice, any guidance, any training, any leading. What this does is it shows you, hey man, look at, let's get some quick wins in. And then pay attention because, when so-and-so is reporting these numbers and they're hitting these things, it's because they've done all this work, right? So you're seeing the fruit of the work while you're just getting started. So it's a continual, almost like a big brother mentorship role, right? Which is pretty awesome to see because these people come in and I think it's fascinating because it's all walks of life in the group as well. We have people that are, stuck in their mind making $1 million a year. And we have people that are crushing it at 200,000 a year, right? And you have the spectrum of people seeing that every single person's problem is actually the same, and that it's just listening as they go through their problem, and you get to fix your own.
Right.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. Let me ask you. something just about, what's the difference in the quality of people that come in now versus the quality of people that came in prior to joining our program?
In the practice?
Yeah.
It's really funny. I told my, so this is really awesome. So last week I'm interviewing people, right? And you asked me, you go, hey, the first question you need to ask somebody is, who'd you vote for? Or did you vote for Biden? Right. And so as I'm hiring staff, right, I can't legally ask them that question, but I do it in a roundabout way. I tell them, my practice that I've built now over the last 6 months is, 3 letters, ATF. And I got that from Rigo, right? Alcohol, tobacco, firearms. And the looks I got back from these people applying were like, I mean, you knew that like they were in, or you knew they were out right away. And so in my practice now, I have A-level clients. And I like to tell people we're unapologetically conservative, unapologetically Christian, and we did not vote for the current guy in office. And they're like, huh? And I'm like, yeah, my whole practice is that. Like, you come in here, there's ammo manufacturers, there's gun guys, there's alcohol distributors. We have, like, you name it. That's the industry that I service. And it's fun because today's St. Patrick's Day. We've already had people rip a shot in the office after their adjustment, because guess what? That's what they like to do. So good for them. It doesn't, nice. So it's made it more, it's fulfilling. It's invigorating. It's a lot of fun. So
that's awesome. Yeah. What's funny about that is, you've gotten really clear on who you really want to serve. I think the biggest mistake we can make as business owners is, we want to serve everybody, but in reality, we say that because we'll take anybody, we can take on anybody, because we have that scarcity mindset that I'm not actually going to get the people I want to work with. And so rather than focusing on our ideal clients, we settle for anyone. And that's really what holds our business back. Because a lot of those people that, we have to cater to those people that every time you walk into work, you can't be yourself. Every time you walk into a conversation, you can't be yourself. And dude, to me, that is the biggest trap we fall into as business owners is, I had a gym full of, 2 gyms full of 600, 700 clients, 25 trainers. And I couldn't be myself. I felt like I was trapped in a prison. And at about 8 to 10 years of that, I started to break myself out. And all of a sudden clients they no longer like that.
Oh yeah. They don't like it at all.
Yeah. And so, I realized at that time that, I went through a big transformation in my business where I had to get rid of a bunch of clients. I had to get rid of a bunch of trainers and bring in new people and basically say, hey, listen, this is the way it is. If you don't like it, just don't be here. Like, it's cool. Like, I appreciate you, but you just don't need to be here. And I don't want you here. I want you to go to a place where you feel like it's your home, and this just may not be it. And that's cool. But I think that's a huge mistake, and something that you said it lightly, but I want to reiterate it, because I think, we get in the trap of when we're in scarcity, we're willing to accept anything, versus, realizing that, hey, the more ideal clients I get, the better I'm actually going to feel about my business and operating it, and the more successful it's probably going to be.
And I think also you can serve them with integrity. Right. And I think that, what I've noticed is I started to see the shift as soon as I joined with you, because I lost 25 clients in the last 6 months that I would have freaked out about otherwise. But it all started in the waiting room when people would come in and they would start talking about Trump, or they would talk about guns, and you could see some people that were just offended. Right. And they were just like, I can't believe they would talk about that in here. Right. And so I was laughing because those people are no longer in the practice. They're gone. They worked their way out. And when people come in now, they have a safe space to be themselves. Like you just said, it's secure to where they know when they come into my office that they can talk exactly how they want to talk. Right. And they have no problem having to censor themselves, because they don't. So
yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah. That's what made me want to even think about quitting the business, because I was like, can I even serve these people? Like, and you're like, hell yeah, you can. You just got to get in front of them, right? You got to figure out really how to do it. And then we figured out how to do it, and here we are.
Yeah. So let's talk about the style of marketing you get to do now versus the style of marketing you did before. What's the difference without really going into the details of the how, but more about like, what you're doing?
So like when we had our first call, I think I spent 26,000 in Facebook ads the year before, and we made 27,000 back. And it was D-level shit clients. I mean, like, these are the people looking for the $19 a visit. We're going to give you your first adjustment and evaluation for free. And then we're going to have to try to hard sell you on, 2,500 worth of care. And it was an awful experience. It didn't feel very good. It was just rough. Right. But in that, we got a lot of repetitions at talking to people and learning what we do want, because now we know what we don't want in the practice. Now everything is done from a place of integrity to where we're building relationships with people. We know what they're looking for. And in doing so, when they find us, it's an easier yes and an easier transition into the practice. And now when they come in, they understand what we're trying to achieve because it helps them towards a goal that they want to get.
Right.
Is that vague enough? I think that is.
Yeah. So quality is much better. Quantity is much better. And then also kind of before you started with us, you didn't really push your higher ticket stuff.
I didn't at all.
Now you have a higher ticket offer and that's pretty much all you do. And it's super, there's no insurance, right? It's all cash based. And so what's kind of been the transformation in that alone, just having this high ticket offer?
I was laughing because the first week I came in, you made me raise my prices like straight up. And I was just like, oh God. And you go, you're uncomfortable with it. Your avatar is not. And I was like, okay, that's right. And so I have, right now, more people prepay me for care than I've ever had. And it's the most expensive offer I have. And I think last month we talked and you said, hey, if you're starting to get too many prepays, you need to take that off the sheet, change it over, just make some changes in the practice, right? Make some things different. And I said, okay, cool. And so it's really nice because the people coming in have no problem because they're not asking me. The first question out of their mouth is not, do you take Blue Cross Blue Shield? Right. Because they're not worried about that side of life. They have the ability and the desire for the results that we deliver.
Awesome. Yeah. And dude, these guys are coming in, they're educated.
Yes.
They know you, they like you, they trust you. Right. So like I actually call these type of leads better than referrals because a referral, although they're a referral from a friend, you still got to sell them. The people that are coming in now are already sold. They're already educated. They already like you. They already trust you. So then it's just about, hey, how do I get to work with you? And so the attraction is them to you versus you, trying to, hey, notice me. Right.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I really see is, the style of stuff you're doing. Like you have your own show, you got your own group, you have people actually attracted to you and your business. And the cool thing is, like you said at the beginning is, I still hear, I just heard about this yesterday is like, dude, going to Chamber of Commerce, doing lunch and learns. I'm like, bro, lunch and learns. Are you kidding me? We were doing that back in like 2005, 2004. Like that ain't going to do nothing. Like you might as well just do a lunch and learn on Facebook and actually have real people looking at you.
Yes.
And he was working with a coach that actually teaches them how to do that.
That's what it is, man. That's what these guys do. So that's been the biggest thing that was really interesting because most coaches want you to come in and they're like, we're going to teach you how to do a spinal screening. We're going to do a patient education class, do all this stuff. And I'm like, people aren't coming to this shit. They won't show up to that. And they're like, well, that's your problem. And you need to figure that out with, enticing them to come. And I was like, no, when was the last time my dentist put on an education workshop? Never. I go to that guy, I pay him a ton of money because I need him to fix my teeth. That's like, I know what he does. I don't need to have, he doesn't need to send me gifts. He sends me a birthday card every year, but outside of that, I don't have any interaction with this guy. Right. So yeah, just nuts.
Yeah. So, no more lunch and learns, no more Chamber of Commerce meetings where we get to see the same, 10 people that never change, the same. Like, dude, what has been an unexpected result for you in this program I know you kind of came in for business, but I always tell people like, yeah, you might come in for business, but you're going to stay for transformation.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a few transformations. So my wife and I have not taken a vacation in 7 years. We have 4 booked this year. That's huge. Awesome. Right.
Hell yeah.
Date night is constant. It's every 2 weeks, or it's every week right now. We have date night set up. You helped me do that. It's been great. It's been huge. Marriage is on fire. It's going wonderful. The other transformation that I've seen has been, right now we're working on physical health. And it's really interesting because some of my goals, through your own experience and through the group's experience, have been able to help really guide me, because I've had some struggles over the last probably about 5 years where I haven't been able to really make the changes I want to see. And so, yeah, it's transformation as a unit, right? Because you can't just treat one area. We understand that, right? It's a system. You have to take care of all of it, or none of it is going to work.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And then let me ask you this, like, you came in not really knowing, the networking, the group aspect, but what's the main thing you notice from our group versus, other coaching groups you've been in?
That's a family. I mean, that's really what it is. If you want to call it what it is, it's a family. I mean, we have a guy that had a major event happen in his life this last week, and everybody immediately is reaching out to take care of him, right? And other coaching organizations, they don't talk about that at all. It's all business all the time. If you bring in anything personal, we don't do that, right? No. We don't talk about that here, right? It's all how many leads, how many generations, numbers. When you understand that a major life event happens, you got to be able to talk about that. You have to have a safe place to go in order to share that information with people that will actually listen and care about you. And that's what I see in the group, right? The messaging itself, it's not always business wins. So,
yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I've really seen in just in the coaching space, whether it be chiropractic, even, personal trainers, even just life coaching, is they don't want to bring in the life part of it to the business part. And what really separates us from other people is we understand that actually life is the number one business, specifically family, marriage, your kids, that's your number one business. If that's taken care of, then you're going to have no problem with, the business where you're making money and producing. And that's, for me, as like, that's number one is, I know if someone's home life has gone to shit, then, no wonder it's showing up in their business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, hey man, any last words? I know there's probably some chiropractors or, health and wellness people on the fence about joining our program. What would be the one thing you'd say to them?
I tell them, this is the really interesting thing I've seen. There's a lot of people who follow this group for 3, 4, 5 months, and they keep on asking us questions, right? They see our wins and they're like, oh, how are you doing that? How are you doing it? How are you doing that? Right? They keep on asking, well, is Jesse real? Is Jesse not? And I go, well, I don't know. I mean, I've done 160,000 in the last 4 months, right? So you tell me, is that real or not? Right? And so for them, my answer is you either shit or get off the pot. And if you're going to not pull the trigger, get the hell out of the group. We don't need your dead weight. We don't need you in here because you are doing nothing but harming yourself because you're not going to pull the trigger. You're stopped. You're stuck inside your own life, right? So I see that as somebody who's paralyzed by making a decision. And so sometimes we need to hold their hand and lead them over, right? And bring them into the group. But if they're just going to keep on asking questions, and never pull the trigger, then how are they going to act once they're inside the group?
Right.
Right. They're going to run because they don't understand that this does take time. It takes investment. And yeah, it's not going to be super fast, but the results come and they work really well. Right. Because most of these guys are like, hey, I'm going to go spend, 5,000 with Facebook. I'm going to get, 25 quality leads. And pretty soon, it's not even quality leads. We all know that's a bull. And so, yeah, I'd rather say, hey, why don't you guys look at what real results are and build your practice and build your life the way it needs to be instead of chasing that carrot that really doesn't exist.
For sure, man. The last part of this, you've been in since September. how much have you actually done since you've been in the program for how many months?
So what, March, we have done, so we did, it was 28, 32. So 60, 55, we're at 110, 115. January was another 30. So you're at 145. Last month was another, what did we do last month? It was 45, I think, last month. 45, so you're 135. I'm almost over 220, I think, on collections right now. We're almost at 50 for this month. So.
Okay. So you're close to $250,000 in 6 months being in the program.
Yeah.
What was the most you'd ever done in your practice in a year prior to being in our program?
135,000.
And dude, you crushed that in the last 3 months alone.
Yeah. Last 3 months, we've already done that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's awesome, man. Well, hey,
I remember, I want to share this real quick.
Okay.
When I had my first call with you, I told you in a little bitch voice that I wanted to make 20,000 a month and I was going to be happy. And you said, dude, I'm only interested in helping you make 70 or more. And I was like, oh shit, we're almost there. So now it's just a matter of scaling. That's it.
Yeah. And it's a good problem to have. Yeah. Yep. I mean, I remember a conversation. I was like, listen, if you're coming in to make 20 grand, don't come in. You want to make 50 to $70,000 a month, then I'll take you. And you're kind of like, dude, this guy's crazy. So let me ask you this, man. This is the last, because this is the number one question I get is like, I'm a personal trainer for 20 some years. I actually started out in the training industry selling steroids for the first 3 years. And as if guys bought stuff from me, then I would give them free personal training. But I have a lot of guys that are like, dude, you don't know anything about chiropractic. What would you say to those guys that are like, hey, you don't know anything about chiropractic? But what would be the main thing you would say to those people who say that versus, me coming from, personal training industry?
You don't have to know about chiropractic. That's my job. When I come to you, I remember this took you 5.5 months to finally figure out that I only adjust one bone in the neck. I remember the time, that was last week. I brought it up and you were like, dude, what? And I was like, yeah, one bone, top of the neck. And you're like, that's it? I was like, that's it. That's the whole thing. Right. And so my answer to him is that you're supposed to be the expert in chiropractic. That's fine. You're the chiropractor. You're it. In our group, we have people that are in solar. We have people in IV therapy. They have medical doctors. Their expertise is their expertise. We're coming to you to help us with transformation, which is your expertise.
Right.
Right. So it doesn't matter what your profession is. And most chiropractors, you've already been to the chiropractic coach. You know who they all are, and they don't give you anything. You get no results, period. I mean, that's pretty straightforward because they're in the exact same shoes you are. Right. And most of my advice is that the best people that you follow, you have to step out of the circle that is your profession.
Right.
That's my opinion. I really believe that.
Yeah. I mean, I would say this, like, I would say being in a group with other types of business owners, you can borrow things from their industries that are very unique to your own. I do think there's a time and place where, having someone in your own industry is super important. But I also think some of the ways that we can innovate and do things different in our industry are usually borrowed from other industries. And that's, one of the cool things is, we get to share that and say like, well, listen, health and wellness is health and wellness, man. Like whether you're a chiropractor, whether you're a trainer, the educate, like, hey, at least I don't have to spend, $300,000 on my education to become a trainer. But I spent, $500,000 on coaching and equipping myself to be a marketer, a businessman, a husband, father, leader, where, I don't just walk into a conversation equipped with, maybe just being a chiropractor or maybe just being a trainer. Now I'm equipped with all these other things that I've, learned and been equipped with from coaching. And so it's a completely different game. Like you want to talk about fitness, we talk about fitness. You want to talk about spirituality. You want to talk about marriage. You want to talk about business. Let's roll.
Let's roll.
And I will open up a conversation around any of those things. And that's what's cool about, what we get to do is you really can equip yourself with anything.
Yes. That's awesome.
So, yeah. All right, man. Well, hey, I'm super proud of you. Dude, we brought you back on second time because you continue to crush it and get better results. And I look forward to you, getting into those 70, 75K months in the next month or two.
I'm coming for Krista and Todd, man. That's it.
All right. There you go, man. Well, hey, thanks again, man. And super proud of you, bro.
Thanks, coach. Have a great day.
Talk soon, man. Okay. Bye-bye. Guys, if you are watching this, what are you taking away? Hopefully, you've stayed on throughout the live. If you're watching the replay, #replay. But, again, Joey started out inside this program, having worked with tons of chiropractic coaches, guys that were over promising, under delivering. And I think the thing that you'll see in our program is we're going to under promise, over deliver. But we're going to make sure that you become successful. The only way the only way you won't achieve success in our program is just by not doing the work. I'm 100% committed. Somebody comes in and they do the work, they're going to get the results and they're going to see those. And so, once again, I want to thank you guys for being on today, and we'll see you on Friday with the lifestyle episode. Talk soon.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse, youre.